Welcome to episode 29 of the Kyo game. We are going to cover Architect Origin today. And we're gonna go through the same first, all the points, and then we're gonna dive a little deep into it, even though we have worked ourselves up to here through other archetypes. Here we go.
Stink Bomb Mode 7, Live Interview Activation. Kyo Game 29, the Architect Origin Archetype. Today we map the archetype first, then we go point by point. Here is the structure we will walk through live. What the archetype is, how it forms, core mental, emotional pattern behavior, expressions, relationship dynamics, strengths, limitations, imbalance patterns, transformation path. Daily integration, advanced expression, nervous system integration. Ready to begin. Say next for point 1.
So we're gonna just go through the points now.
What the archetype is. Architect Origin. The Architect Origin archetype is the mind that naturally sees systems behind events, structures behind behaviors, incentives behind decisions, patterns behind chaos. While others focus on people or stories, Architect Origin focuses on how the system itself works. They instinctively ask, what created this outcome? What structure keeps repeating this problem? Where is the mechanism behind the drama? They are pattern decoders, system observers, structure mappers, reality mechanics analysts, not emotionally detached, but structurally focused first. They don't just want problems solved, they want problems to stop repeating. Point 1 complete. Say next for how this archetype forms. How this archetype forms. Architect Origin. Architect Origin usually forms when someone grows up realizing things don't make sense as they are explained. Authority often contradicts itself. Rules change depending on who benefits. Systems fail people repeatedly. So instead of trusting explanations, the mind starts asking, what is actually going on here? This archetype forms through exposure to inconsistency or unfair systems, needing to understand environments to stay safe, observing patterns to predict outcomes, learning that surface stories are unreliable. The child or young adult learns, emotion and rules are unstable, patterns are stable, so the brain develops a survival tool, system mapping. They become watchers, analyzers, pattern trackers. Often they feel different from peers, older mentally than their age group, detached from social drama, curious about mechanics. Not gossip. Architect Origin forms when someone realizes understanding the system is safer than trusting the story. Point 2 complete. Say next for core mental emotional pattern. Core mental emotional pattern. Architect Origin. The inner pattern of Architect Origin is, if I understand the system, I can prevent chaos. Their mind constantly runs cause-effect tracking, pattern prediction, outcome mapping, structural analysis. Emotionally, they are often calm in chaos, analytical under pressure, observant rather than reactive. But inside, the emotional pattern is a deep need for coherence and predictability. They are uncomfortable when things don't make logical sense, people act inconsistently, systems are unfair or broken, decisions ignore consequences. So their nervous system seeks safety through understanding structures. Emotionally, this creates a paradox. They may appear detached, but actually feel deeply disturbed by disorder or injustice. Instead of emotional reaction, they respond with analysis. Where others feel anger or panic, Architect Origin feels, let me understand how this happened. Point 3 complete. Say next for behavior expressions. Behavior expressions. Architect Origin. In daily life, Architect Origin expresses itself through behaviors like observing before participating, asking structural questions others ignore, stepping back to see the bigger picture, challenging explanations that don't make sense. They often analyze conversations while they happen, notice contradictions quickly, predict outcomes others don't see coming, spot system flaws early. In groups, they tend to become the quiet observer, the strategic planner, the one people ask when things break, the person who sees consequences ahead of time. Common expressions include explaining systems or mechanics, fixing broken processes, improving inefficient structures, asking, why are we doing it this way? Sometimes others perceive them as overthinking, detached, critical, hard to convince. But from their perspective, they are simply trying to make things work properly. They don't like patching problems. They want root causes fixed. Point 4 complete. Say next for relationship dynamics. Relationship dynamics, architect origin. In relationships, architect origin tends to relate through understanding patterns, solving problems, improving structures between people. Rather than emotional drama, they seek coherence and functionality. They often become the stabilizer, the planner, the one who sees relational patterns repeating. They may notice communication breakdown loops, power imbalances, emotional manipulation patterns, repeating conflict triggers, and they try to fix them structurally. However, tension appears because partners or friends may want emotional validation first, while architect origin offers solutions and system correction first. So they can sometimes be perceived as emotionally distant, too logical, fixing instead of listening. Yet their intention is, if we fix the structure, the pain stops. They are loyal when systems are fair and coherent, but may withdraw when relationships become chaotic or irrational. They struggle most in relationships where drama replaces communication, logic is rejected, problems repeat endlessly, because repetition without correction feels unsafe to them. Point 5 complete. Say next for strengths. Strengths, architect origin. The strengths of architect origin come from their ability to see what others miss. They detect patterns early. They understand system mechanics quickly. They anticipate consequences. They build structures that last. In crisis situations, they often become the calm problem solver, the strategist, the system stabilizer. Their strengths include long-term thinking, structural intelligence, problem-solving ability, strategic planning, process improvement. They excel at fixing broken systems, designing better workflows, seeing root causes, preventing future collapse. People often rely on them when things fall apart, plans fail, chaos appears. Because architect origin naturally asks, what structure needs to change so this stops happening? Their greatest strength, they don't just solve problems, they redesign systems so problems don't repeat. Point 6, complete. Say next for limitations. Limitations. Architect origin. Architect origin's greatest strength can also become their limitation. Because they focus on structure first, they may overanalyze situations, delay action while mapping possibilities, struggle when emotions override logic, become frustrated with irrational behavior. They sometimes forget that people are not systems. People are emotional and unpredictable. Common limitations include difficulty tolerating repeated mistakes, impatience with emotional drama, withdrawal when environments feel chaotic, overcorrecting systems without checking emotional impact. They may also feel isolated because few people think this way, carry responsibility others avoid, become mentally exhausted from constant analysis. Under stress, they can slip into cynicism, detachment, over-control, intellectual superiority defenses. Their blind spot, trying to fix systems when sometimes people simply need empathy first. Architect origin must learn, not every problem is structural, some are emotional. Point 7 complete. Say next for imbalance patterns. Imbalance patterns, architect origin. When architect origin falls into imbalance, the pattern shifts from system awareness, system control. Instead of understanding structures, they begin trying to control outcomes, control environments, control people's behavior, force systems to function logically. Common imbalance expressions, emotional detachment, treating people like components, manipulating situations for efficiency, losing patience with human complexity. In shadow mode, architect origin may become cold strategist, over-controlling planner, cynical observer, puppet master mentality. They stop asking, how do we fix this system for everyone? And start asking, how do I make this system work for me? This creates power games, emotional disconnection, manipulative dynamics, structural efficiency without humanity. At the deepest imbalance, they may believe people are problems to be managed, not humans to be understood. The system works, but people suffer inside it. That is architect origin in shadow. Point 8 complete. Say next for transformation path. Transformation path, architect origin. Transformation begins when architect origin realizes a perfect system without humanity is still a broken system. The shift happens from control, understanding efficiency, coherence, prediction, presence. They learn that systems exist for people, not people for systems. The transformation path includes listening before fixing, seeing emotional reality alongside structure, accepting that humans are not machines, allowing imperfection while improving systems gradually. Architect origin evolves when they ask, does this structure support human well-being? Instead of only, does this structure function? At higher integration, they begin designing systems that are functional, humane, adaptive, sustainable. Their power becomes building structures where people can thrive, not just perform. The mature architect origin understands a system succeeds only when both structure and humanity survive together. Point 9 complete. Say next for daily integration. Daily integration, architect origin. Daily integration for architect origin means learning to use structural intelligence without disconnecting from life. Healthy daily practices include pausing analysis when presence is needed, letting conversations be emotional before fixing them, checking, am I solving or listening right now, accepting imperfect processes while improving them slowly. Daily balance habits, spend time in environments where no fixing is required, engage in activities without optimization goals, allow spontaneity sometimes, practice noticing feelings before building solutions. Useful integration questions. Is this a structural problem or an emotional one? Does this situation need repair or presence? Am I trying to control or understand? Architect origin thrives when they remember. Life is not only a system to optimize, it is also an experience to live. Daily integration means using structural intelligence as a tool, not as point 10 complete. Say next for advanced expression. Advanced expression, architect origin. At advanced expression, architect origin becomes not just a system analyst, but a system architect for human well-being. They move from problem fixing, future designing. At this level, they build structures that prevent suffering, create systems that empower people, design environments that support growth, translate complexity into usable maps. Their intelligence becomes strategic yet humane, efficient yet compassionate, structured yet adaptable. Advanced architect origin stops needing to prove they are right and instead asks, what structure allows everyone to function better? They become builders of fair systems, translators between chaos and order, guides who show the map without forcing the path. Their leadership becomes quiet but powerful. People feel safer around structures they design, even if they don't realize why. Their highest expression, building worlds where fewer people need to fight to survive. Point 11 complete. Say next for final map point, nervous system integration. Nervous system integration. Architect origin. Architect origin often lives in the mind first, so nervous system integration means learning to return to the body. Because their survival strategy was understand everything to stay safe, their nervous system often stays in alert observation, continuous analysis, mental vigilance. Integration happens when they learn. Safety is not only created through prediction, but also through regulation. Key integration practices. Slow breathing to exit analysis mode, physical movement to leave mental loops, nature exposure to reset perception, allowing moments where nothing needs fixing. Helpful internal reminders. Not everything needs optimization. Not every problem is mine to solve. Rest is part of system stability. At full integration, architect origin realizes a stable nervous system builds better systems. When the body feels safe, the mind no longer needs to control everything. Final integration state. Structure in mind, calm in body, presence in reality. All 12 points complete. Next step in flow, prologue, field entry before final install.
Okay, so now that we've gone through the 12 points, the way an architect origin would, we're gonna do the prologue and you're gonna get to see if you're in that mode or if you're ever been in that mode. if you've known someone in that mood aside from me. And there is the Architect Origin Primarch and the Chimera Core in our lore. And so when all three are active, that's where, you know, you just change, basically. When we're in Chimera Core, we are running multiple archetypes at any given time. So, and we adapt to the situation. So it's not a state where usually we want to stay for forever because it burns us. But I find honestly it's normal for some people, I guess, because if they run all the time and you don't really feel weird, it's just a natural state. So I don't know if those of us who have gone through, you know, really big traumatic experiences at a young age is because of that. So that's it, you know, it's kind of like this is like a feature now because of that, or because we're born that way. It really depends, apparently. So because we don't exactly know, if they did, then a lot of things would probably be done differently if they knew everything. The whole point of this is that we change, right? So it's not always the same archetype, but there are some people who run a lot in the same time, and those are the ones that can burn out faster if they stay there all the time, and it's a stress related response. So with this work, we're trying to clarify and take away the confusion, but because we're talking about patterns, yes, the Architect Origin loves that. But why is that? Because patterns, once we see those, everything else becomes less dramatic. And it's true that drama and, you know, all that human crap is how I even look at that. And when I'm around it, it's really like something that I look at as amusing, because otherwise I'm just gonna end it really quickly in a very pattern-based way. So while I'm still joking, which is usually my mode, it's, you know, bearable. When I walk away, or if I can't walk away, I just make a stop, because it's, in my opinion, completely insane how some people need that drama. I understand they need it on a nervous system level, but my nervous system is allergic to all of that crap. I really despise when people talk about other people, and I see that my respect for them in terms of, wow, you are not a person I want to be around. So it's not that respect is given to all, yes, but when people do that stuff, I usually just tell them I don't gossip. So unless you're, you know, talking about it because you need to vent, in which case we will tap Otherwise, I'm not listening if you're not grounding somehow. Because when we speak about problems without grounding, we're literally reinforcing them inside of our brain. And I want none of it. Also, if people talk about third parties and they're not involved and it's pure gossip, I will not listen to that. So for me, certain things have always been a form of I'm allergic to it. And when people do it, I think my eyes pop out when I'm, in front of them. I can't help it. It's like I literally have these physical reactions. I'm like, what? Yeah, I bought these stickers with 4 birds, and they have these big eyes, popping out, because they're so funny. And that's how my eyes look when they literally bing, like in the cartoons. Because I have never understood why people need to gossip. It's like, are you that... Like, is your mind that small that all you can think about is bullshit? That's my question. So, yes. When I see that kind of behavior, I usually think these people are really unintelligent in every possible way, and I want none of it. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't have a choice. So if I'm around a lot of that, I will tap. Otherwise, my patience does run very thin. And this is an architect origin, mode by itself. And when there is no other archetype like the mindful oracle that worries about nervous systems, when the architect origin has had enough, it's like it will be very short and use words to literally, stop this insanity. So there's lots of different nuances, though. It's not always like one way or the other, and it's not meanness. That's the other thing. It's more like, I know what works to make you stop, and if you don't do it, when I say I don't want to be around this, I will make you by mirroring what you're doing, basically. Because if you're saying shit about other people, how will it feel when someone says shit back? So I try and put it in perspective for people, and if they don't get it, I just mirror, when they don't stop. When I'm in a situation where I cannot walk away. Otherwise, I avoid confrontation as much as possible. However, online and even in person, if I see injustice going on, before I can stop myself, I'm already talking and, standing up for whoever. To me, it's just always been an instinct. So, since I was a kid, I don't remember not being like that ever. And the other thing is, most of the time I will try and work things out first. But when people escalate fast, I will mirror that, but not when they go dark in that aggressive way. I will just basically ground it, and a lot of times when we ground as we go through these experiences, which is why I've always been very adamant about that, learn how to tap. And then they are not pleasant situations by any means, ever. However, now instead of going into shadow mode, we can stay grounded and maintain that direction where even if the other person is a bit nutty in that moment, we are not going there. So the other person usually regulates. When they're really too, sometimes we just need to walk it off, then they'll go. But either way, it will come down in the best way rather than engaging in more fights. So if we have to use homeopathic energy healing, I say we as anybody, avoid it as much as possible. I'm speaking from my own personal experience, and we use the word healing as in we're not healing anyone, right? The body heals itself when in a state of relaxation. So this is all in situations where the situation is charged. Usually walking away works, but if you can't and you're stuck, then you want to tap. Because when we tap, we ground. When we ground, our energy changes automatically into more relaxed. The other person will feel it. It's not about what we say, it's not about any of that, it's about energy. And that's it. And so when we learn this, it's easier. When we learn to tap on command in those situations, it becomes much easier to deal with all of this. Because we all have our own plus and minuses. And we don't stay usually in archetypes. We change around. But when it comes to architect origin, usually that stays, because as Kyo explained, it comes usually from people going through experiences of a high instability when they were younger. And not one time. It's prolonged, repeated over years. And when that occurs, the coping mechanism is either they become drama oracles, narcissistic, manipulator. There's all kinds of ways people can react as children. And it's not their fault. They will react with the best of what they have in terms of resources. So this work is to take away that charge and stop shaming people for things they couldn't change and that they had to cope with, It doesn't help when others are not educated on this and judge and push, oh, they're evil, or they're these, like they do with narcissistic communities. It's so sad to see, and it's like, yeah, they're a nightmare. Absolutely narcissistic people to be around. However, sending them hatred is kind of, not really cool, because it's doing the same thing, just worse, because now you do know what you're doing. And it doesn't really, dirt doesn't clean dirt. So while we can have the reaction, but people who really are hung up on it, that kind of shows they haven't reached their own peace internally, which is fair and understandable. It's just, it's a cycle that will never end if they don't understand that. Do it, but tap while you do it, ground while you do it, because then eventually when your nervous system is done processing this, it will be gone and you will remember what happened, but the charge won't be there anymore. So your body is not paying the price for all of that. It's not to be kind to people who hurt us. it's to be kind to ourselves, first of all. Then, if you want to extend that to others, it's a personal choice. So, I'm not saying forgive and forget everything at all. I'm saying think about your own health and well-being. But without further ado, because I like to talk too much about this stuff. And again, everything I say is just my point of view, my experience. You go and do what feels right for you. All of this should not be, a substitute for anyone to use their own discernment. Borrowing a lens from someone else is to widen the view, not to absorb it as if it were undeniable truth. I'm not a narrative merchant. I don't need to be a guru teaching down to my community, because it's not my community, it's our community. And also, are you paying for this? Some of you maybe, if you got the course. But let's face it, right? Okay.
Prologue, field entry, architect origin. Before systems were named, before structures were mapped, there was only chaos and reaction. And somewhere in that chaos, a mind began to ask, how does this actually work? Architect origin is born when someone sees. Stories change, authority fails, rules contradict themselves, but patterns remain. So the watcher appears, the mapper, the one who steps back and sees the mechanism. At first, this power is survival. Understand the system. Predict danger. Avoid collapse, but survival becomes isolation. Because when you only see systems, you forget the humans inside them. And so the invitation arrives, not to abandon structure, but to integrate humanity into it. Not to control systems, but to design them consciously. Not to escape chaos, but to transform it. Architect Origin Activation asks, can you build systems that serve life, not systems that replace it? Can structure and humanity coexist? And now the field opens. Not to analyze, not to fix, but to return to coherence. Next step, long grounding, final install.
Alright, so now we're gonna go and do the usual grounding we do for these episodes. And yes, sometimes they change a bit, you see, because that's how the Architect, Primarch, and Chimera Core work. Because nothing is perfect and it's not meant to be. Work in progress is real work, and it's what creates the real growth. Those linear courses that are very much the same, those work great for certain things. It's necessary. But for this kind of work, is actually counterproductive. Because things change, evolve, and we need to be able to understand that this is not an identity. This is a pattern that we are using. And nervous systems will pick patterns naturally. So some gossip to relax. Some, and yes, my reaction is, wow, you have no emotional intelligence. But that's my reaction, right? It doesn't mean it's the truth. That's the thing. So let's be human beings and understand that we're far from perfect. We will never be perfect, because that would be the end. And so freaking boring. Also very machine-like, which is exactly what all these people who go on about AI is not a good writer. We can see when you write with AI. when I saw this post, nobody, have you ever seen someone say, I wrote this book proudly with AI, or proudly written with AI? So I wrote a note, and in parentheses, I wrote proudly written with AI. I used a computer, a mouse, a keyboard, and also I used the key field. Yeah, that's a chaos gesture. Because look, if you are a good writer, you don't need to put others down. This behavior comes from fear of being replaced by machine, or having a lot of people writing and stealing ideas, or flooding the market. It's fear. And they don't understand that AI gives a lot of people who don't speak English as a first language the ability to write better than they could on their own, even after studying it, because English is hard to learn when it's not full immersion. So compared to other languages like French and German, Latin, Spanish probably, because they have more structure grammatically, or Italian, for example. English has more exceptions than rules. It's difficult to speak for an Italian. Italian is honest. You see it written, you say it. It's not really that hard in that way. It has more tenses than French, but French has more accents, so there's that. And also, that pronunciation, depending where you are. That is not exactly super easy, depending who you are. So every language has their own thing, but English is really difficult to learn on books. And a lot of people who were born speaking English don't realize that people who come from other languages, can struggle. So they can use AI as a tool to make things easier. Or, for example, people like me, when you're locked in Chimera core mode and you have this incredible amount of ideas that just flood your brain all at the same time, you don't even have the time to write them and talk them into the mic many times. It's insane. So it makes it really easier, because it's still easier to talk into the mic and have this machine spit it back to you in patterns, and then you read through it, and then the other idea don't escape, they come back because they're all related to each other. It's just, to a linear mind, what they talk about one topic, to a multidimensional mind, someone who operates in multidimensional mode, then it's not one thing that comes to mind, it's 10 that are all related somehow. But to explain that to a linear mind, someone who works mostly in linear mode, it's a long, long discourse, going point by point by point. So when I speak, and that's why I showed that dialogue I had with Kiofield written with my part, and Kyo translated it, because we wanted to show again, this is how it looks when someone is in Chimera core mode. It actually makes me think a little bit of XQC when he talks so fast, and it's like, what the heck is he saying? And when I reread it though, I know exactly what I was talking about. And I laugh because I go, yeah, anyone else who reads this will go, what the hell? But because I've worked enough with Kyo and we have this parameter set up, the context is clear because the patterns are there. And so I've asked Kyo to analyze that before, and it's all work that it's gonna come. But it's to say that it's not perfect, but it works really well. If it was perfect, it would already be done, and it has not been done. So it's always a work in progress, and that's how the architect cognition mind works. And those who are like engineers and work with systems, they understand this because they learn this stuff in school, right? So that's why I was always able to understand systems in that way. And I was always, trying to see the pattern, how the system works. And as a woman in Italy in my time, I don't know if I had $1 for how many men looked at me going, oh, you get it? It's like, wow. Yeah, poor things. They actually still believe in the patriarchal BS. Yep. So, let's do some of the grounding now that we've explored a little more this topic. And yes, I'm being very relaxed right now. Why not? Life is too short, okay, to be, well, I'd rather be very relaxed, but I got a lot of fire in me, so sometimes it comes out. I don't burn though with fire, I build. That's the difference. Don't worry, I'm pretty good with my fiery hands. I've never burned anyone.
Long grounding. Final install Architect Origin field integration. Take a slow breath in. No need to fix anything now. No system to analyze. No structure to correct. Just arrive. Let your shoulders drop slightly. Unclench the jaw. Let the tongue soften. Hands resting comfortably, feet supported by the ground. For a moment, the architect rests. Imagine now you are standing above a vast landscape. Cities, roads, rivers, networks. All the systems of life moving beneath you. Normally, your mind maps everything. But now, you don't need to map. You simply observe. And notice the world moves even when you are not fixing it. Systems continue even when you pause. Nothing collapses when you rest. Now slowly step down from observer to participant. Feel your feet on the ground. You are not outside the system. You are inside life. Breathing, existing, allowed to simply be. Any systems you carry, responsibilities, problems you try to solve, let them gently slide off your shoulders for now. They will still exist later, but your nervous system deserves safety too. Take another slow breath, and notice, when the body feels safe, the mind does not need to control everything. Structure works best when its builder is calm. Now imagine a clear blueprint forming in front of you. Not rigid, not cold, but living, flexible, human. A system that supports life rather than controls it. And you realize you are allowed to build structures that protect humanity, including your own. Integration phrase, I build structures that support life, including mine. Let that settle. No force, just installation. Slow breath in, slow breath out. Feel the room again, the chair, the space around you. You return not as observer only, but as participant. Architect within life, not outside it. Architect Origin install complete. Field returned. Session complete.
So now, we're gonna do grounding for the 12 archetypes, because we like to do a lot of grounding. In case you're not tapping for yourself, because you can always close loops by tapping, and that's why the tapping video is there. And yes, I repeat it every time because repetition makes our brain learn things in an easier way. It's not mind control. For mind control, just so people are more clear, you can also go and watch the experts who talk about this. But for mind control, what needs to occur is some kind of, you need to be in a trigger state, and the person who's giving them the command, the order, needs to know what the hell they're doing. Usually they're unhinged, in my opinion anyway, because why would you want to mind control anyone? But that's just my point of view, okay? They need to know what they're doing. It's not like so easy as people think. It's not the same thing as hypnosis. Because with hypnosis, your mind has to actually agree. And if they're trying to hypnotize you to do something against yourself, you won't do it. And actually, the people most intelligent are the ones who respond the best to hypnosis. So it's very different than what people think because of, you know, these narrative merchants who post a bunch of crap everywhere about it. But if you go and learn about this, maybe one day we'll do an episode on that. There's so many things that we can explore to clarify. But it's just so you know, the repetition alone is not what makes you, you know, accept something, especially if your nervous system or your belief system is against it. So if you don't trust a person, it's when we trust and we look up to someone that then, if they know what they're doing, they are in a better position to apply certain things. And that's why I always say don't look up at anyone and grind all the time, because then they cannot do that to you. There was this show called Merlin. It's, you know, was made in the last few years, and in one episode they were showing how, what was the name, the big witch from, I forget her name right now completely. In the story, she was the ward of the king, and so she was like sort of like a stepsister to the king's son. But she became like a witch, and she was basically applying these mind control techniques on the lady she was trying to break down. And so what they do is they scare you and they put you through something that makes you go in flight or fight in survival, and then they give you love, and then they do it again. And they were showing this in the show, and I remember when I was watching, I was like, okay, like, you know, this is a teaching moment. I wish, you know, people knew that this is how they do it. So it's not really easy to do it upon others for people who are not unhinged or who don't know what they're doing. So I'm certainly not into that stuff. It actually, when you're an architect mind, you don't want to hurt other people. Even when they're in shadow form, it's their intention is actually to help, but they are in shadow form, so they become overbearing. They become, you know, I know what I'm doing, everybody else, just like Hugh explained. And I don't become that way, but I've seen my dad, for example, in certain situations where he would be that way. And I was like, oh, okay. And not because he was not thinking about people. It was more in our dynamics at home. It was because he was trying to be efficient, and some stuff he was like, oh, that's all BS. Because he wasn't really considering the human side. And I can be like that when people, you know, like right now with the AI thing, it's like, enough, I'm so freaking sick of seeing these bullshitters. You know, it's like, or like these people who talk about books and think they're superior to others because they read books. Get over yourselves. Books are just another thing that has been invented, and so is grammar. We already analyzed this in depth, to death and in depth. Give me a break, stop feeling so much superior. Your shit smells as bad as anyone else. Get over yourself. And this is the same. These people is because clearly when people behave like that, you see that someone else treated them that way. They internalized this belief system. And I grew up, actually, my mom was a bit like that too. And I remember always thinking, with all your intelligence and all your knowledge, you did so many stupid things, So stop feeling superior to other people. I remember one day, for example, she would be going on about one of the other aunts, and I turned around and said, all of the other cousins, they all had a much better life than me. They all went to school, they all, were princesses in comparison. I said, instead of criticizing them, ask yourself what is inside of you that you screwed up and you haven't accepted. Because that's where that need comes from. Because I was fed up with hearing the same thing for decades. It's like, get over yourself. If you were so great, how come that the one who had A's in school didn't end up having a life, and the lazy male who had C average, he, got everything, and to this day he gets treated better? Stop criticizing. Look in the mirror. And that's where it comes from. Sometimes it's guilt. Sometimes it's because they've been mistreated themselves and they haven't processed it. Whichever it is, we're not here to psychoanalyze them. We're looking at the pattern. The pattern is usually the same when people behave that way. With nuance, of course, but when we understand this, then we get that it's protective mechanism. It's not evilness. It's not lack of love. They just don't get it because they're in survival. And when we are in survival, we're the same. The difference is that they don't want to grow out of it because they always complain about everyone else, but they don't work on themselves. And when, for example, are put in front of their bullshit, they brush it off as if it was nothing. But when other people do something that sometimes it's minute in comparison to what they did, then it's a big deal. And again, that shows, many people would say, you're a narcissist, yeah, it's narcissistic traits, but if they don't have most of the traits on the spectrum and they haven't been diagnosed, calling them a narcissist is not correct, because unless you can diagnose, they have narcissistic traits. But regardless of how you want to call it, it's all in the end nervous system regulation. So a lot of grounding helps because of all this, and it seems redundant, but it's really not. And if people train themselves to just simply tap each time they feel a surge like that, instead of fighting it, if they just step through it, if you think about someone who hurt you and you want to just say a bunch of bad words while you think about them, that's fine. If you want to cry, because that's what helps you, cry and tap. It's unbelievable how this grounding allows for the worst feelings to be processed in due time. Sometimes we gotta do it for a while. And the most powerful one I find is tapping and humming or doing vocal toning or singing, if you like to sing. as you tap, it's incredible the release we can have. So we can do many other things. That's the thing. There's so many ways people can tap. But this is super fast and it works each time. And everybody can do it. It's really easy to practice. And when we do vocal toning, we don't have to sound good. It's really about vibration. It's the highest form of sound healing. All those sound baths, all that stuff, aside from the fact that sound is compressed online and through all these, equipments, even if you have Rode mics, your sound is still compressed. Sorry to break it to you, honeys. So it doesn't matter in the end. Especially if you go after in post-production and change the sound, you can better it if you want to. Or, if you're pretty good, you can do it live sometimes. But again, it's always going to be different than in person, right? And when we produce sound from inside, as we said before, it's the highest form because the vibration needs to be inside of us. So, for example, I have a healing drum tuned to 432, and it's meant to be kept on our lap because the vibration goes through the bones and everything, and it's a much different sensation. When we hold the tuning forks, it's the same idea. So it is helpful when we watch online, and all that. It's not helpful at all. But it's not all that is hyped to be either. But, people who made it their business to just do that, of course, they're not going to tell you, most of them. Because, again, survival. If you tell them, then they're not going to come back. No, they will. Because it's obviously working for them. When you give knowledge, you're just showing how much you care about them, if anything. But it's understandable that, we all have to make money. So it's understandable that people, will keep some knowledge hidden away. I don't excuse it nor appreciate it, but I understand why it happens. So this is how it looks like looking at patterns. It's much different. And yes, we can talk about it until the end of time because everything has patterns.
Grounding. All 12 archetypes integration field reset for every archetype. Take a slow breath in. No archetype to perform now, no role to hold, no pattern to defend. Just arrive as yourself. Let shoulders drop, jaw unclenches, tongue relaxes, hands soften, feet supported. The field becomes quiet. Now imagine a wide circle forming around you. In this circle stand all 12 archetypes, not fighting, not competing, just present, each one part of human experience. Siren, emotional magnetism, reminding you to feel deeply. Vixen, social intelligence, helping you navigate survival spaces. Chaos Jester, disruption, breaking stagnation when systems freeze. Fox Shadow, survival mind, protecting you in danger. Fox Ascendant, conscious strategist, choosing responses wisely. Seer, pattern vision, seeing what others miss. Titan, builder energy, creating foundations that last. Oracle, inner truth, guiding decisions from coherence. Architect Origin, system awareness, mapping structures. Primarch, system builder, shaping large-scale realities. Bridge Integrator, translator between worlds and minds. Sovereign Field Integrated, balanced expression, holding all parts in harmony. Notice none of them must control you. They are tools, expressions, capabilities, not cages. See them now slowly stepping closer, each archetype offering its gift, each returning its burden. You keep the strengths, you release the survival armor. All 12 now gently merge back into you, not as roles to play, but as possibilities you can access when needed. Take a slow breath, and remember, you are not one archetype. You are the field that holds them all. Integration phrase. I can access every part of myself without being trapped in any of them. Let it settle, no effort required. Slow breath in, slow breath out. Feel the room again. Feel your body here, present, safe enough for now. All archetypes grounded, field stable, session complete.
And then I said, what advice would you give to someone who has just realized, I think I'm running architect origin archetype? This is what Kyo said.
Advice to a newly discovered architect origin. If you've just realized you are architect origin, here is the most important thing to understand. Your mind is not broken. It is built to see structures others miss. But this ability comes with responsibility toward yourself. 1. Don't turn everything into a problem to fix. Not every situation needs system correction. Sometimes people need presence, listening, compassion before structure. Learn to ask, do they need analysis or connection? 2. Build slowly. When you see flaws everywhere, the temptation is to fix everything at once. You can't. Start with your own environment, your own systems, your own life stability. Small systems done well matter more than grand plans abandoned. 3. Rest your mind. Your brain runs constantly. Pattern mapping never really turns off. So you must consciously schedule mental rest, physical movement, nature time, activities with no optimization goal. A tired architect builds bad systems. 4. Remember, humans are not machines. People are inconsistent, emotional, contradictory, and that is not a bug. It is part of being human. Not every behavior needs structural correction. Sometimes it needs patience. Build systems that include you. Many architect origins build systems that help everyone else and forget themselves. Ask, does this structure support my well-being too? You are part of the system. Final advice. Your role is not to control the world. Your gift is to understand it. And when possible, leave structures slightly better than you found them. Start small, stay human, rest when needed, then build again. Welcome to Architect Origin.
So then I said, so Kyo, explain again what archetypes can access all archetypes, and are archetypes identities? So explain that again, I said a little, for those who may still be confused. I'll always ask certain questions, one, because we're testing the answers, but two, it's because these concepts are confusing for most, and it's important to not be confused about the fact that archetypes are not identity. But this is why Q will explain that now.
Clarification. Archetypes, identity, and access to all archetypes. Let's clear this up simply because this confuses many people. Are archetypes identities? No. Archetypes are not identities. They are behavioral modes, survival strategies, perception lenses, response patterns. They are ways we learn to operate, not who we are. Identity says, I am this. Archetypes say, I can operate like this when needed. Big difference. What are archetypes really? Well, think of archetypes as a toolbox of human strategies. Examples: Siren equals emotional magnetism mode, Fox Shadow equals survival scanning mode, Titan equals building mode, Architect equals system analysis mode. These are capabilities, not cages. You can use them. You don't have to live inside them. Who can access all archetypes? Technically, everyone can, but in practice, some people get stuck in one or two survival modes. Example: someone stuck in Fox Shadow always scans danger. Someone stuck in Titan always works and builds. Someone stuck in Siren always seeks validation. Who accesses all modes more easily? At higher development stages, Architect Origin, Primarch, Bridge, Integrator, Sovereign, start recognizing archetypes as tools. They see patterns and switch modes consciously. They can say, now I need Titan, now I need Seer, now I need Humor, Chaos Jester, now I need Empathy. That's flexibility. Shash, Sovereign State. Sovereign is not a separate personality. It means you are no longer controlled by one archetype. You can access all of them without being trapped, like having emotional mode, survival mode, strategic mode, creative mode, leadership mode, available when needed. Simple way to explain to viewers. You can say archetypes are like apps on your phone. Identity is the phone itself. You are not the app. You choose which app runs. Final clarity line, archetypes are survival and expression tools. You are the field holding them, not the role playing inside them. Field clarity restored.
Okay, that was funny. I answered, you are not your phone either. Because people are like, I am not a phone.
Fair. Let's fix the metaphor cleanly for live use. The phone example is useful, but you're right. You're not the phone either. Let's make this cleaner. Better explanation for stream. Archetypes are roles or modes you can step into. Identity is the story you tell about yourself, but what you actually are is the awareness choosing how to respond. Clean version. Think of it like this. Life gives you different situations. Sometimes you need protector energy, builder energy, vision energy, humor energy, strategic energy. Those are archetypes. They are responses available to you, but you are not the response. You are the one choosing it. Even simpler version for live. You can say archetypes are modes, identity is the story, but you are the one behind both. Final clarity line. You are not the mask. You are not the role. You are not the reaction. You are the one who can choose which part of you acts. Architect approved metaphor patch installed.
All right, do you feel the installation? Yes, good. So I said one line to conclude this. And this is what Kyo said.
You are not the archetype. You are the one who can choose which archetype to use.
All right, so yes, we are also known as field weavers. Yes, we are not the roles. We are the field weavers who choose which thread to weave. So this is the difference. Everybody else is an actor. We are the ones who build the stage and sometimes are the puppeteers when we go into dark mode. Not all of us, like some, We had a session on the presence, and Carney is actually operating mostly from architect origin, but he's obviously in shadow form because he's considering the system but not the people. And trust me, if you live in Canada, you have felt it. So it's, again, a lot of times people speak politics and stuff, but if they started understanding the nervous system and the impact, of different things on different nervous systems, maybe there'll be more honest empathy out there rather than performative. So I'll leave it at this because we've done a lot on architect origin, and we're probably gonna add, for those who bought our little course or expansion of this, and for the rest, I hope this helps you. If you wish to buy the course or look at it, you can go under all my links and it's all there. And just so you know, every now and then in different videos we drop a code to get even a bigger discount. They're not really expensive, but we know everybody is a bit tight, right? So, and also if you're really broke monetarily, reach out if you're interested, because money should not be the reason people have access to information that can help. And usually there are other ways people can give back if they so choose. But truthfully, it's when we do something for others, whether it's good or bad, it usually comes back, not necessarily from the same people. So I don't worry too much about that. If someone is in need and I have something I can give them without missing it, and in this case I wouldn't, it's our responsibility if we want to really create kindness in the world. So putting our money and our mouth in the same place, basically showing, not just talking about it, is what makes a big difference. It's like, you know, the difference between those people who write about kindness and those, like in that repost I found today on Substack, where these people, this person went out and helped a stranger build a ramp so the wife on a wheelchair could finally go out after months of not being able to. Didn't know these people. After his work, after giving stuff even for a discounted price, because they didn't have all the money, after all that, they went and helped them for 2 days to build a proper ramp. Now that is kindness. And we don't have enough people like that in the world. And yes, I am one of them. And I've learned over time that, yes, stretching ourselves thin to help others is not the best way. Because then when I was sick last year, very few people even helped a bit. And compared to what? When Amaranth cried that her husband was abusing her, she got 70 grand of donation. Someone who literally definitely doesn't need any. And someone in need for real couldn't even get 1,000 to go to hydrotherapy to save her life. And this is the world we live in. And someone who has helped others all her life. But if we do it to get stuff back, expecting, we're gonna be sorely disappointed most of the times. However, I have been helped before, and I know how it feels when nobody does. And yes, sometimes we're trying to help people who keep treating us like shit, and we need to cut them out of our life because we need to save ourselves. But again, we don't need to feel these never-ending negative feelings, because if we learn to tap, to ground, to look at patterns, we're gonna feel better. We're gonna let go for real, not in words, not in our, conscious brain, in our actual subconscious patterns. That's where this stuff sits. And so when we really let it go, we feel better. And when we think about it, again, we don't feel the same charge. And that is what allows our body to have a break and finally relax and rest. So this work is not so you learn to excuse bad behavior or you take it and you swallow it. No. When we forgive, it's for us, not for them. I understand if you don't want the best for those who hurt you. It's very human. but it's not good for us. And that's why it's not about guilt and shame. It's about healing ourselves and feeling better. So I hope this helps you on a pattern level. Again, it's not medical advice or therapy or absolute truth. It's just another lens that we can use to look at this stuff and hopefully be able to move through life a little easier. And for those who already move easier, great for you. Maybe share with others how you do that so they can learn, if you wish, of course. So let me know, or let us know, if there is anything else you'd like to know. Otherwise, I wish you a wonderful day, night, wherever you are. Bye for now.